If you stroll down the condiment aisle at the supermarket, you've probably always noticed a classic glass jar. Tartar sauce, a fish printed on the label, a creamy white sauce speckled with minced pickles. It looks exactly like a refined invention of the modern West. Most of us naturally assume tartar is just a culinary term, just like ketchup or mayonnaise, a harmless name born right inside the kitchen. But here's the thing. Its origin is the exact opposite. This name wasn't born to serve diners. It carries absolutely no connotation of deliciousness or culinary refinement. It turns out, by the time this condiment became the ultimate icon of fish dishes, its true meaning had been buried by history in a massive, epic misunderstanding. At its core, tartar sauce evolved from one of the mother sauces of French cuisine. That is mayonnaise, a beautifully emulsified blend of oil, egg yolks, and acid. To create its signature chunky texture, they toss in pickled cucumbers, capers, onions, along with a heavy hit of acid from lemon or vinegar. And this is exactly when the chemical magic happens. The human brain reacts incredibly violently to the combination of fat and acid. The fat content from the mayonnaise coats your oral cavity in a smooth, slippery richness. At the exact same time, the razor-sharp acidity from the lemon and pickles acts like a literal knife. It cuts right through the heavy greasiness of deep-fried foods. With just a single dip, this structure simultaneously triggers multiple taste buds: salty, sour, fatty, and a touch of sweet, creating an absolute perfect balance, leaving you feeling profoundly satisfied. But be careful. If you whip up this fantastic sauce at home and stick it in the fridge, it can turn into a literal ticking time bomb. It bubbles, ferments, and turns rancid in just a matter of days. Why would a sauce packed full of natural preservatives like acid spoil so incredibly fast? Let's put a pin in that culprit for a moment. But first, we have to solve a much bigger mystery. To understand exactly why seafood is eternally tethered to this name, we have to travel back to 19th century France. Tartar sauce appeared in cookbooks of this era as a legacy inherited straight from the culinary traditions of ancient Greece and Rome. But here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Originally, it was absolutely not used for seafood, not at all. It was invented strictly to be paired with one single dish: minced raw beef, otherwise known as steak tartare. It wasn't until much later, thanks to that absolute perfect flavor balance we just analyzed, that it gradually crossed over and became the eternal companion to deep-fried seafood dishes. But that still doesn't explain the name. What exactly does tartar mean? Brace yourselves, because its origin starts thousands of years ago on vast, distant steppes. The name stems from the Tatars, or Tartars, a nomadic ethnic group hailing from Turkey, Western Russia, Ukraine, and Central Asia. They were notoriously brutal warriors on horseback. This group had a bizarre custom. They ate minced raw meat, tenderized by stuffing it right under their saddles during long, grueling military campaigns. The French borrowed this exact imagery. In French, the word tartare literally translates to rough. Even more subtly, it has a direct connection to Tartarus, a dark, abyssal region of the underworld in Greek mythology. By naming the sauce tartar, French chefs were implicitly hinting that this was a condiment with a fiercely strong, sharp, and explosive flavor profile. A sauce that represents the delicate refinement of seafood, yet bearing the name of bloodthirsty nomadic warriors. A sheer stroke of genius. But here's the twist. Tartar sauce. The name rolls off the tongue with a crispness. It's incredibly catchy. But that very popularity birthed one of the most hilariously absurd linguistic mix-ups in history. Many Americans, upon stepping into the kitchen and seeing a jar of cream of tartar baking powder, have asked themselves, is this the secret ingredient that makes that familiar seafood sauce? This confusion is so incredibly common that Jack, the husband of culinary expert Janine D'Onofrio, once innocently asked his wife that exact same question. Some people even physically cringe when associating it with teeth plaque, known in English as dental tartar. What is the truth? In a linguistic discussion, experts on the Reddit platform, like Hot Liqueur Tank and Andreas Dassos, stepped in and delivered an ironclad debunking. Tartar sauce has absolutely zero relation to teeth plaque or baking powder. The term tartar, used in dentistry and baking, actually originates from the Greek word tartaron. It refers to the crusty, crystalline white sediment that builds up on the inside of wine-aging casks, the very substance that creates tartaric acid. Furthermore, the scientifically accurate medical term for dental plaque is actually calculus, completely and utterly unrelated to our savory, warrior-echoing sauce. Clear as day. Case closed. Now, let's circle back to that ticking time bomb sitting in your fridge. Homemade tartar sauce usually has a maximum lifespan of just 1 to 2 weeks. Meanwhile, commercial bottled sauces can sit proudly on supermarket shelves for up to 6 months. Where does the discrepancy lie? One culinary enthusiast tracked down the true culprit: fresh onions. Fresh onions are the absolute core reason why tartar sauce bubbles, ferments, and spoils so rapidly. The ultimate solution? Surprisingly simple. Just use onion powder or dehydrated onions. Swap out one single ingredient and you preserve that fresh deliciousness for several extra weeks. However, a long shelf life isn't necessarily a good thing, especially when you look at the startling numbers below. Tartar sauce is a literal nutritional minefield. According to the standard recipe from culinary expert Natasha Kravchuk's Aunt Anna, a single batch of sauce yields 8 servings. Each of those servings unloads a staggering 196 calories, 21 grams of fat, 334 milligrams of sodium, and 12 milligrams of cholesterol straight into your body. Massive. But the world always offers alternatives. The American Heart Association, AHA, published a portion-controlled version. Divided into 12 servings, it contains a mere 60 calories and 10 milligrams of sodium per serving. Your taste buds or your waistline? The choice is entirely yours. We are talking about a single condiment, but the level of fanaticism America has for it creates an unbelievable geographical paradox. Data statistics from Zippia point out that Alaska is the state that consumes the most tartar sauce in the U.S., favoring it even over ketchup. This is quite logical for a coastal state, but the runner-up is Montana, a completely landlocked state without a single drop of ocean. Tartar sauce has completely transcended oceanic borders, and at the same time, it possesses absolutely no fixed recipe. In the UK, the birthplace of fish and chips, the sauce usually has a heavily chunky texture packed with solid ingredients and absolutely mandates the use of mustard. Meanwhile, in the United States, the sauce tends to lean much sweeter thanks to the use of sweet pickle relish. And sometimes, it gets an extra kick from jalapeno peppers. The fast food industry plays an entirely different game. McDonald's boasts an extremely minimalist recipe with exactly 5 ingredients. Conversely, the copycat version of the Red Lobster restaurant chain utilizes an astonishingly clever hidden ingredient: shredded carrots. User Randir5 on culinary forums confirms that adding minced carrots yields a spectacular result. Crossing the Pacific, expert Caroline Phelps analyzes how Japan has elevated tartar sauce to an entirely new level. They use Kewpie mayonnaise as the foundation. This incredibly rich sauce only uses egg yolks, rice vinegar, and MSG to violently detonate the umami flavor. Then, they stuff it with mashed hard-boiled eggs, sweet relish, and hot karashi mustard. Exquisite, profound. Even the high-end culinary world refuses to sit still. Chef Ina Garten uses a food processor to blitz everything into a puree in a flash. Chef Cardia Brown remains absolutely loyal to Duke's mayonnaise and fresh dill. Chef Ingrid Hoffman tosses in smoky chipotle peppers, garlic, and scallions. Anne Burrell even manually emulsifies her own mayonnaise from scratch using malt vinegar. And what about Janine D'Onofrio? She swaps out a portion of the mayo with Greek yogurt, cleverly lightening the calorie load. And if you push it too far with the ingredients, you create hybrids. Add a massive amount of hard-boiled eggs, and it morphs into grabiche sauce. Toss in Cajun seasoning and New Orleans-style Creole mustard from legendary chef Paul Prudhomme, and it transforms into the famous remoulade sauce. Extreme modern variations even utilize horseradish, mangoes, and pineapple. Unpredictably versatile, absolutely limitless. The enduring survival of this concoction proves one absolute thing. It isn't just food, it is culture. The sheer adoration is so massive that America officially designated February 24th of every year as National Tartar Sauce Day. Modern consumers have completely liberated it from the shadow of seafood. They slather it onto burgers, stuff it into po' boys, and load it into baked potatoes instead of sour cream. Or transform it into an exclusive dipping sauce for air-fried cauliflower. It started on the steps of the Tartars, traveled through the glamorous kitchens of France, and now sits comfortably on the Friday night dinner tables of millions of American families. So now you know the bizarre, rich, and historically turbulent journey of tartar sauce. It carries upon its shoulders centuries of culinary legacy, a notorious name borrowed from steppe warriors, and a flawless taste mechanism that is still tricking our brains to this very day. Whether you are someone who always scrapes the sauce cup clean, or someone who hates it and scrapes it right off your sandwich, tartar sauce remains a highly unique cross-section, perfectly miniaturizing the culinary habits of Americans. It reminds us of one thing, that sometimes even the most mundane items, a chunky cup of sauce, a rough-sounding name, a sharp tang of acidity, can conceal astonishingly grandiose historical roots.